Hi guys, I'm continuing my work on the RCA 87T. I've got all of the capacitors under the chassis changed out, as well as there was one capacitor here on the tuning condenser. I haven't cleaned this up or anything yet. It's still pretty grungy. There's actually two tuning or trimmer caps here and here, I believe, under all that grunge. So now I've moved on to the electrolytics, and I've pulled the first can cap out of here, and it looks like this. It's funny looking. I've never seen one like these before. The threaded on the bottom. It's really light. There's nothing to it, but you can see that it's either corrosion or something has leaked out of it here and here. And the bottom end under the chassis does not come apart. It looks like this end comes apart, and it'd be really difficult to mount the replacement caps underneath here without using at least using these studs. And I don't want to just connect new caps there, because obviously if this one shorts out, it'll damage the radio, the power transformer or whatever. So I'm going to try to take this apart, and I don't want to damage it and gouge it all up, so I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to do that. I imagine this was crimped on here, so I'm just going to have to work at one spot and see if I can get it apart, and if it dings it up a little bit, I'll just have to put that part towards the front of the radio where you won't see it, and we'll just hope for the best. So that's where we're at. And I was mistaken in the first video. The small can cap here is actually only a single stage, single element right there. But so anyway, I've never seen any caps like these, but we're going to see if we can't get it apart and at least get the guts out of the inside of it so that I could mount the new cap to this terminal. But I may be able to just put the guts inside there. I'm not sure how I will fasten the ground, but we'll get it apart. Hopefully we'll get it apart and see what's inside. Well, I got the top off from it. I didn't mangle it up too bad. A little bit in the one spot. This is weird. If you can see inside there, there's some kind of a mesh around the outside. Looks like, I don't know, it's like a steel screen, and then the center pin just comes up through to the top here, almost to the top, and there's like a wiggly, I don't know what it is, feels like metal in there. I don't know if this is an insulator, this screen material, and the only capacitance you're getting is just right there at the edge. Weird. I'll see if I can pull that out of there. Not sure how, but we'll see. Well, I got everything out. This is the center thing. It's porous, it has holes in it. And then this is the material that was inside the can. It's almost like a Bakelite. I broke this little piece out. That's got holes in it. I'm not exactly sure how this is supposed to work. It's like a battery or something. There must have been some kind of liquid in there, because there is a gasket here at on the top where it was crimped, and then this thing at the bottom is rubber. It's probably supposed to seal, but it looks like it leaked out of there. And obviously there was no liquid in there when I took it apart, but not exactly sure how it's supposed to be a capacitor. But anyway, it's apart. And I don't really see any problem with, I haven't put my meter on it, but I don't think there's going to be any continuity between either side. There probably wasn't ever going to be continuity as long as this thing was decent, but I wouldn't want any arcing going on in there because of this plate being real close to that thing here. So as long as this rubber here is good, I'll clean up the gunk around there and I'll check it with my ohm meter Make sure there's no short there. I would say it's probably good to just put it back together and leave it empty, because I don't really know how I would hook the ground of a replacement cap to this. I think it's aluminum, but anyway, weird. Never seen a cap like that before. Alright, so here's what I've come up with. The rubber grommet in the end of here was shot, so I had some of these rubber grommet looking things. Let's see, I think I got another one here. Yeah, they look like this. And I put one down in the end of the cap, and I've cut off the crimped part and put one down in the cap this way, and then I put a brass bolt, an 832 brass bolt with washers, and ohmed it out. I get 0 deflection on the needle at 50 megs, and actually it's more than that, it's 1,000 megs. That's 1 meg times 1,000. So it's 1,000 megs. I get 0 deflection on the needle. Now when I had the original grommet in here, I'd get it dropped down to about 20 or 25 megs. So there was some breakdown. This I get 0 deflection, and I hooked it up to my 400 volt power supply between negative to here and positive to here, and there was no current draw whatsoever. So it's holding 400 volts and no breakdown, so I think it'll work. And then I've just taken one of these quick connect terminals, taken the plastic off from it and flattened it to make a tab, and then I'll mount the cap back in the chassis and solder the leads to this, which is insulated from ground, and then I'll just mount the cap underneath the chassis. So I couldn't figure out a good way to get the ground, to the can without drilling a hole in it, and then you'd see that. So anyway, that's what we're going to do with that one, and probably with this other large cap here is built the same way. This one's a little different, so we'll have to see when we get this one apart what we're going to do with that one. But that's where we're at. I'm going to get this end crimped back on here best I can, and get that remounted in the chassis, and we'll go from there. Alright, I got the first can cap replaced, and I've taken the other one apart, and this one's made a little bit different, but it's basically the same. It's got a big coil of aluminum plate with slots in it, and down inside the can is a phenolic spacer with holes in it, and it's just full of powder, and it's supposed to be a 20 microfarad, and it measured 87 picofarad because there's no electrolyte in there. So we're going to do the same process with this one that we did with this one. So I think that worked out quite well. And yeah, we'll get her cleaned up, and I'll get back with you when I get it done. Alright, I got this cap all cleaned up, and I haven't assembled it yet because I wanted to pull this one out. If this one is newer, this is a replacement, but it has all the stuff in it, and it's funny, it smells like horseradish. Of course, I'm sure it's not horseradish, but it kind of looks like horseradish, but I'm sure it's not good for you. So I'm not exactly sure how to get that out of there, but I'm going to work at it, and I'm going to assume that it's caustic or acidic, and I'm not going to touch it, or at least try not to, and try not to get it in my eyes, and I'm certainly not going to eat it, but I'm going to see if I can't get this one out and cleaned up. And this one will be fairly easy because all we'll have to do is just clip off that lead from the bottom side of the, or from the inside of this plastic insulator, and clean all the gunk out of the inside and put it back together, and we've got our terminal already mounted right on there. So that one will be simple if I can get the stuff out of there. So that's what I'm going to try to do next. Well, I've been working on the chassis. I've got the caps are all mounted, And I actually, the small one used to be here, and the small one is a replacement, so it looked kind of out of place. So I put the big one back here where you would see it, and the other big one is in the original spot, and I moved this one up here because it'll be kind of hidden by these tubes. But anyway, I got the transformer painted, the speaker's been cleaned up and remounted, the tuning cap has been cleaned up and oiled and remounted. I ordered the cap to replace this one that I forgot, and I actually didn't order it from the Just Radios. I ordered it from Antique Electronics, because I have to replace some of this wiring. It's the old rubber coated wiring, and as you can see, the insulation just falls off. Well, that's not good, especially with high voltages. So they have 600 volt rated lacquered cloth covered wire, and I ordered, I think, yellow, red and blue, or yellow, red and green, 25 foot of each. I ordered some dial cord. I ordered some Novus number 2, a couple other things I can't remember all. But I've been working on the tuning here, the tuning cap, and the reason why this part, which goes on here and tells you the bands, was all loose is because this little piece is broke. Where the set screws go in, here and here, that was cracked, and I tried to draw it up and it broke. And this is made out of pot metal, which is kind of crappy. I don't know why they decide to make stuff out of pot metal. So what I've done is I've recreated it. Whoops! I've recreated it out of 1/4 inch aluminum plate, and it's not perfect, but it ought to work just fine. And the aluminum should be a little bit tougher, and hopefully it won't crack when I draw it up. But I am going to take a file and make me a couple real small flat spots on here, so that you don't have to draw it up so tight to keep it, you know, from moving. And I'll get it all mounted back up, and we'll see how it looks. Oh, and actually, this doesn't take dial cord. It takes a belt, and the actual belt is here, and it's not in too bad a shape. And there's a big wad of dial cord inside the radio too, and I have no idea why, unless somebody was trying to fix something that wasn't broke. I took the tensioner here, which goes on this shaft. This goes on first, and then the tensioner goes on, and the belt, and it turns the tuning cap here just fine, and everything works just fine. So I don't know why somebody would have been messing with the dial cord. But the only thing I can think of is this was kind of gummed up, and this turned really hard. I mean, it turned very easy now. So maybe the belt was slipping and they were trying to do something with the dial cord, I don't know. But I'm going to try to get this assembly put back together, and yeah, we'll see how it looks. Alright, we've got this mounted, and it does work. But I've taken this I had put this part on, the indicator, but I've taken it off because you can't put this part on with that in there. Now, this brass shaft was worn out pretty bad, so this idler wobbled pretty bad. This is worn a little bit. This is aluminum, I think, and it's worn out a little bit, but this was worn bad, so I soldered it and then filed it back down to size to kind of take up some of that space. It's not great. Brazing would be better, to be a little bit tougher, or silver solder, but I don't have any brazing or silver solder, so we used regular solder, and it'll last for a little while. I figure that's probably 60 years worth of use to wear it out. But so anyway, that goes on the shaft, and this goes on here, and this goes on here, and then this is the idler. And there's a spring, and I'm not sure where it goes. It goes in one of these holes, I believe. Actually, it might go in this hole here. I'll have to figure that out because it wasn't in anything when I got it. So those go on, and I got to lubricate everything, and I may need to put a spacer washer behind here, because this, in order for this to line up with this pulley here, it needs to be out a little bit, but maybe it's supposed to just float. There's a clip that goes on here that keeps it from coming off, and then of course the tuning knob goes on this. So I wouldn't think you'd want this moving back and forth, so I'll probably put a spacer washer in there, because this can't come out any farther because it brings this too close to the front. So we will get everything fashioned up here, get the dial belt back on, and see how that works. Alright, I just thought I'd show you guys how this works before I put this back on and block it all off. Turns out the spring, I think, goes in this hole here. It seems to have just enough tension on there, and they had it, I believe, in the hole in this the bracket here that holds this, and I don't think that was right. But the dial belt is on there. Now I had to put a rubber grommet on here to hold this part on. When you turned it one way, I think clockwise, it was fine. When you turned it counterclockwise, this idler wanted to walk out, and the knob only goes on, oh, it's about 3/8 of an inch away from here, so the knob won't hold that in. But it does work. It actually works quite well. I've already had it all the way through the entire rotation here. So it doesn't seem to slip or anything. So that's good that I don't have to get one of these belts, because I think they're becoming kind of rare. Antique Electronics carries them, but they say you have to call them and mention the radio model number, and they'll see if they have one. They only have certain specific models left anymore, I would guess. But anyway, it's kind of neat how this works. It's actually like a clock. There's a pointer that goes on this back brass, and then there's a pointer that goes on this center. And because it's geared, the center actually goes quite fast, and that's like, you'll see it once I get the faceplate back on. But it's actually quite a nice deal, and I didn't get to really see it work because this was all messed up. But we'll get that. We'll get the band indicator mounted back up, and I'll get the faceplate mounted. It's got the this bracket here, actually goes this way, that holds the tuning eye, and it's painted porcelain on the inside. It's not in perfect shape. There's some chipping and stuff, but I'm not going to repaint it just because it's in decent enough shape and you don't really see it, just to reflect some of the light into the face. And then here's the clock face. It's in fairly decent shape. There's no cracks or anything in it that I can see, so that's good. And it's got this little window here, which is brass, but it looks like it's been painted, probably to dull it so that it's not shiny brass. And it doesn't look too bad. There's a couple little spots of rust, and I may just leave it because it's hardly noticeable. And I don't want that to come out shiny brass if it's supposed to be that antique bronze look, because I don't have any antique bronze paint. So anyway, I will get this back together and we'll see what we get. Alrighty, we got all the tubes tested and cleaned and reinstalled. The eye tube is a little bit weak in my tester. It's supposed to light up, and it does light up, and it does function. It's just not very bright, which is kind of disappointing. But I guess you can't win them all. And I've got the faceplate, or the dial plate, put back on, and the needles, and I put the knobs on. This is power, off, on, and this is tone, and this is the volume, and this is the band selector, short, medium, broadcast, and the outer dial is the tuning. The little center pointer here correlates to the outer dial as you spin it, and then the actual channel is geared down. It works pretty good. So now I'm probably going to go on and do the cabinet, which isn't going to take much. It just needs a top. The top veneer needs to be replaced, and it needs to be cleaned up. It's got some paint and stuff on it, and glue the joints. But I don't have any veneer, so we're waiting on wiring and the cap for this. One of the other things I ordered was a decal set, and it has a Philco in it for the Philco 42380. And then all that radio will need will be the plastic faceplate. So then that one will be done, and this one, like I said, we're waiting on that cap and some wire to replace some of the bad rubber wiring in it, and cabinet work. So yeah, thanks for watching, and tune in next time.